Whoever knew that life was gonna be this way. Da 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 da.
Andrew, no, you just ruined the clap sync.
Oh, so many claps. So many claps.
Copyright infringement. Woo. That's a decent podcast name.
Hello and welcome to the Voluntary Viewing Podcast, the podcast where we talk a lot about media because we're a bunch of nerds and we love all of that. I'm Lucas DeRuyter and am joined by Andrew Clark and Ryan Holtz. How you guys doing? Take your time.
Who goes first?
Oh my god. We're killing it already.
Ooh.
Andrew always is the one that's
Why?
hey, I'm doing great, Lucas.
I knew that if I started talking, I was going to trip over Ryan.
No, I knew that you were going to start talking
Fuck.
first, so I was waiting for you. And you were introduced first. It has to be your move, right?
Fuck.
Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing great on this fine, hot day. How are the both of you doing? Please speak at the same time.
Yeah, once again, you guys keep introducing with, hey, two people talk at once, please. Like, make this impossible to listen to.
Welcome to Voluntary Viewing Podcast, the podcast where we refuse to use proper nouns.
Or pronouns, because we don't want to take a stance.
Ryan, how are you on this fine May 28th, 2018 to date ourselves?
Yeah, good dating. We'll see when this actually releases. I'm doing great. I have to turn off my AC and my fan and everything so that this audio doesn't sound absolutely garbage. So it's probably like 80 degrees in my room right now.
Oh, we got a hot boy.
Yeah, that's life, man. Sometimes you just gotta make sacrifices so that you can record something that is apparently unlistenable so far.
I think we're doing fine. I'm also a hot, sweaty boy. Nobody misinterpret that. Because, yeah, I'm back home with my parents right now, and our AC is broken. So, kind of sweating that out.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure in Wisconsin it's hotter than it is in Los Angeles today.
Yeah, it might actually be. It's only like 81 today.
Yeah, it was a high of 94 by me, I think, today.
Damn. Yeah, you guys are getting drilled. It's weird.
It's Memorial Day weekend, so all of us are in different places traveling around. But
yeah, traveling, man.
Well, okay, Ryan's on his own, but
hanging out.
Yeah,
like you do on Memorial Day.
I celebrated Memorial this morning the way that, in typical American fashion, as custom, we shot guns and made things blow up. So
that sounds actually really fun.
It was really fun. I forgot how loud guns are, and that sounds like the stupidest statement that has ever been said in America. But the person I was shooting with forgot to bring their earphones, which, PSA, really bad idea to shoot a gun without ear protection, because unlike video games and movies where they make you think it's just kind of a pop, it'll literally blow out your eardrums. I fired a 9mm, and the first time I shot it, like, I literally could not hear anything. Like, I couldn't hear anything that people were saying. It was
that sounds like permanent hearing damage.
No, I mean, like, it lasted for about 10 seconds, and that was it. But and then,
did you ever hear ringing in your ears for the rest of the day?
No, the ringing lasted for about 30 seconds, and that was gone, too.
If there was ringing at all, that means that there's, like, dead hearing cells that are dying.
Oh, absolutely. But I listen to loud music, too, so...
So it's fine.
PSA, don't listen to loud music.
Yeah, I'm just double dipping into hearing loss. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I wore Beats headphones while shooting that gun while blasting rock.
The noise cancellation of Beats headphone will protect my ears. This thing made in China for like $8. It'd be perfect.
Okay,
But no,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna lie. That sounds like a great potential commercial.
Yeah,
Beats
except
headphones.
for it would be really
You-
dangerous and
You
you
Yep.
get
can
sued.
fire a weapon and protect your ears.
Yeah.
Yep. The noise cancellation in Beats headphones is so good that
No,
you can fire off a 12
absolutely
gauge
not.
and be totally fine.
Absolutely, I would never do that. I feel like if I did that, that would somehow make it worse.
And then you could do cross promotion with Archer and have like a scene with him with like a gun being
With-
fired right
with
next
the
to his ear. But he's
tinnitus.
wearing his Beats.
Well, no, that's exactly what I thought of when I shot the gun the first time. I mean, like, it wasn't the first time that I've ever shot a gun, but it was the first time I shot without hearing protection. And I'm like, oh, so this is what Archer felt like.
Great. It's not a joke, Andrew. Millions of people suffer from it every year.
Yeah. But yeah, you want to know what else causes tinnitus? Ammonium nitrate explosives. Dear God.
You guys sound like a bunch of terrorists up there in Wisconsin.
No, it's legal. You can buy it at a gun shop.
Oh, I know it's legal.
Yeah.
But like, there's legal things that kill a lot of people
Oh,
and are
absolutely.
considered really, really heavily controlled.
Absolutely.
Well, that's fun.
On this fine Memorial Day, I did a bunch of chores in the morning, mowing my lawn and then my grandparents' lawn, and then did a lot of preparatory work for this podcast and applied for a couple jobs. So hopefully I won't be unemployed in the near future.
But
We can all
Lucas, this is your full-time job.
With all that
Dealing
money
with
you're
you
gonna
two,
be
you mean?
bankrolling from the voluntary viewing podcast, why would you even need full-time employment?
Yeah. Voluntary viewing, sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace, give me money.
Ryan, I think you
Does
just burned
Squarespace
that.
have money to give people?
Yeah.
I
There,
mean, I always thought that like it would actually be kind of funny if you gave away free sponsorships, like without their consent. Like with that, I can't see why a company would not appreciate that. You know, especially ones that are put on like already racy podcasts. Like I could see being like, this podcast is brought to you by Coca-Cola, and Coke's like, no, we don't want our name on that shitty podcast. But like, most of those podcast sponsors, they'll sign up for anything. So like, you could just name a bunch of them, and they probably wouldn't care, right?
Do you think if there was, you know, like let's say, and I don't want to alienate a viewer base here, but let's say some guy was on the Daily Stormer drinking a Coke, and like that was like negative product placement. Do you think Coke would order a cease and desist saying, please don't drink our product on your racist ass website?
I mean, considering they just did something like that on YouTube, I absolutely think they would do that.
Wait, what do you mean? Please explain. Give us the
Well, no,
first
that was the
juicy
whole-
voluntary viewing details.
That was the whole
It's just the
the
apocalypse
first
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was all advertisers pulling out because they thought they were being placed on
Well, those were
racist videos and stuff.
those were advertisers pulling away from something they had already invested in, as opposed to just saying like, this is someone using our product who we don't like.
No, I'm saying if like that was the sentiment for that YouTube situation, I think a similar mentality would apply just to some terrible person Joe Schmo talking his ass off why he really likes Coca-Cola, and then Coca-Cola being like, yeah, you have a lot of really shitty views and we don't want to be associated with that. Please stop talking about us.
Well, I know that there was something, I think it was a handbag company, and basically, I think a rival handbag company was giving out those handbags to like people that were considered lower class. Like they were giving out their competitors' handbags to like quote unquote lower class people, so that they would be perceived as like cheap. So in like
Oh, yeah.
influential areas in like Los Angeles and San Francisco. So then,
Okay.
like, people would see those, like, the quote-unquote tastemakers would see that quote-unquote lower-class people had those types of bags and would buy their competitors' bags instead.
Man,
Yeah, no, there's some dark shit in marketing.
that's weird.
And it totally works, and that's why we hear about it. Like, we don't hear about all the failed attempts, but the stuff that works, we absolutely get to read about, and it's like, oh my god, that is insane.
Hey, speaking of stuff that we hear about, let's go on to News of the Week. All right, and here we are in our News of the Week segment. We generally record these episodes, or we're going to try to at least, on Sundays or Mondays. So this is everything newsworthy, in our opinion at least, or at least is stuff that we can have a conversation about, that happened over the past 7 or so days. And first up on the docket, we have Call of Duty Black Ops III announced with trailer.
Well, I think we should clarify, since it's a new podcast, that our News of the Week is mainly going to focus on media-related topics, such as video games, movies, television, books, maybe some social media sort of stuff. We're not going to talk about, in this week's podcast, there is a giant cloud of volcanic glass and hydrochloric acid above Hawaii.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're mostly going to focus on entertainment-based news topics. So yeah, Call of Duty inaccurate Roman numeral 4 was announced this week. And
oh my god, I didn't even realize that.
Yep, no, they just totally cocked that up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the branding. There has to be a reason, right, that they went with
Call of Duty tally
ones.
marks.
Well, yeah, because in the logo itself, it looks like the, I think they're called chevrons, like the military chevrons.
Yeah. No, then just call it Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and have that be your logo, right? Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That you would do a faux pas like that just for branding on your logo, you know?
Yeah. Maybe they didn't think enough people understood Roman numerals.
No, I totally agree. Like, that is 100% a thing. I bet you that was what they were thinking. But then call it Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and just put the 4 tally marks as your stupid logo. It doesn't have to be called Call of Duty Black Ops I. I had to even think about it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's the big reveal with the trailer and the press conference that went along with it is that this is going to be multiplayer only, no story mode. They're going to have the classic deathmatch, team deathmatch, that stuff. Zombies mode, which apparently is going to be more robust than ever. And the newly announced Battle Royale mode, Blackout, which we know next to nothing about other than it's called Blackout, and that Treyarch, EA, has refused to even say how many people are going to play in a single match.
One thing that we do know is that it's going to include a bunch of assets from other Call of Duty Black Ops games, including like RCXD cars and then skins of people from old Black Ops games, including Russian World War II soldiers, but I assume that's like a cosmetic thing. But yeah, not a lot of stuff revealed. The pitch that they gave was basically, we know you guys like other Battle Royale games. We do too. What if we did that and we just went balls to the wall Black Ops? And like they didn't really explain what that even meant. Just like, we did it the Black Ops way.
I saw a I'm not sure if it's legitimate. It might just be like a total fan-made thing, but there was like a map of the map, and it was like a bunch of different famous Call of Duty maps, like all spliced together into one big map, and that was going to be the Battle Royale. And I have no idea what that was, but
Okay.
yeah, there was like firing range and I don't know if Nuketown was actually on there. What was the one from 2? I don't remember. Who cares?
Who after Black Ops 1 kind of went downhill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, it's not totally multiplayer only. I know I'm one of the only people that did this, but I'm imagining that zombies will have single player experiences that might be experienced offline, right?
Well,
unless they're really
yeah,
gumming
that zombies single player is essentially the same thing as, let's say, you can play in Black Ops 1 you can play a multiplayer match against bots, you're still on your own.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, like I'm sure you'll definitely be able to play Call of Duty Zombies with all their different waves on your own as a single player experience, but that's different than a campaign mode.
Yeah, so I guess my main gripe with calling it multiplayer only is like whenever multiplayer only is said, that makes me think that it's online entirely. There's no game modes to play offline, and you can only play, with like friends or with random people from around the world. Mm-hmm. Versus like they do have a zombies mode, which in my experience, I love playing zombies solo, and especially if it's going to be even more robust than ever, that would indicate that there's going to be like Easter eggs and like different types of things that you could hunt for on your own that would actually kind of flesh it out to be. I mean, obviously it wouldn't replace campaign, which has been a Call of Duty staple for ever, since the very beginning. But still, it would be some sort of single player experience.
No, I agree with you because I also enjoyed playing zombies alone. The one gripe that I have with talking about how robust it's going to be is that every single year Call of Duty does this, and the whole gaming industry does this, but Call of Duty is one of the worst in my opinions, especially with zombies. They'll talk about, before it's fully revealed, about how this is a game changer. Like, you guys don't understand. We've totally revamped everything. And
there's a bus.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, like that's exactly it. Like when they say it's more robust than ever, it means that there's going to be some sort of weird gimmick to it. Kind of like how in Call of Duty World War II, the most recent Call of Duty game, their zombie mode was more robust than ever, quote unquote, because there was cutscenes. Like that was it. That was pretty much it. Like other than like some amped up graphics, and it may have been a little bit scarier with the atmosphere, it was the same.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I feel like watching the multiplayer trailer, which I think is actually really a good move on their part, because I remember way back, Modern Warfare 3 was when I was like, because Black Ops 1 was always my biggest Call of Duty, and then Modern Warfare 3 was the game that I was like following with the most hype. And they released a trailer, and it was like the announcement trailer, and it didn't have, like, it had a little tinge at the end of multiplayer. And people broke down that one like 10-second clip a million times.
Yeah.
Versus now it's like, oh look, the whole trailer is multiplayer footage. It's not like, rendered out cutscenes and like, not to say that Battlefield, we'll get into Battlefield 5, but not to say that that was like rendered out cutscenes, but it wasn't, most of the trailer wasn't like full blown. This is what you'll see when you're playing our multiplayer experience sort of thing.
Yeah,
so,
and we will get into Battlefield 5
a
little bit later, but
I just appreciated that about this trailer, how it was like, you know what, guys, we know what you're here for. Like, here's all the little stuff for multiplayer. Not that I'm going to buy it, or that I think it even looks relatively interesting, but I appreciate that.
And I guess,
I appreciate that because, sorry to cut you off, Lucas, but like, I think you're right. They're catering to their fan base. They know what they want, and Call of Duty is very good at.
Fan base that is left.
Yeah, they're giving the consumers what they want. So yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Lucas.
No, I guess just I don't know. My reaction to the entire thing is that it's kind of weird and maybe a little, I don't know, sad almost that this video game series that kind of defined what first-person shooters were for the past decade and a half is abandoning its pretty well-established story mode and is now kind of chasing a lot of industry trends, specifically them putting in a Battle Royale mode, and it's just, I don't know, this seems like a really kind of reactionary game when a lot of the other previous entries in the Call of Duty series have always been, okay, this is the absolute most we are able to do with where we are in figuring out how to get the most out of this hardware. Or at least that's what they branded themselves as. And now it's this weird kind of, well, battle royales are popular and narrative games aren't doing super hot right now, so we're going to instead put all, the resources that would have gone into a story mode into a battle royale mode. And yeah, I'm still just kind of working out how I feel about that.
My response to that would be, games are always going to be products of their time, or almost always. Sometimes you get really innovative games that change how the industry works, and everyone remembers those. But for the most part, games are playing off of what people at that time are into and what is working. And so I think single player experiences are getting less popular, and I will always love a single player experience as much, if not more, than a multiplayer experience. But even last year or 2 years ago with Battlefield 1, they were starting to move away from that with a sort of vignette single player system that wasn't really a campaign. It was a series of single player missions that altogether maybe took you 4 or 5 hours to complete. And people really liked that because no one's really playing Battlefield for the single player experience, in the way that at this point, no one is really playing Call of Duty for the single player experience because, and some people will disagree about this, but in my opinion, Call of Duty campaigns haven't been good in 6 years. It definitely started out as an experience that was as much of a single player experience as a multiplayer experience, but it's changed. Like Ryan said, people are playing Call of Duty for the multiplayer at this point, and people aren't really interested in their campaigns. I would say that the last time that I enjoyed a Call of Duty campaign was Black Ops 1, which was years ago.
I think a decade now.
Yeah, that was 8 years ago, man.
Jesus, God, we are old.
Yeah. No, I would say that I enjoyed Black Ops 2's campaign. I don't know if you gave it a chance, but...
Yeah, I played it. It wasn't really my thing, but some people felt positively about it.
They were innovating. They had branching storylines. The characters were at least relatively interesting. They couldn't just bank off of having established characters like the Modern Warfare series, so they kind of had to reinvent a lot of stuff, and I appreciated it. I enjoyed it in my first playthrough. But like I said, played through it once and then probably played, 4 or 5 days of the multiplayer afterwards. So, I mean, you know what their bread and butter is. And because I was curious, I wanted to see when the last time they broke their own record for sales was, and it was Modern Warfare 3, which doesn't shock me at all because that was when my peak, I'm following every single bit of hype, was Modern Warfare 3, which just edged out Black Ops, which just edged out Modern Warfare 2, and so they had been building and building and building. Modern Warfare 3 was their peak, and then they've gone nowhere but down. Modern Warfare 3 sold 30.7 million units. World War 2, which was pretty well hyped, as I recall, I was even considering buying it, sold 12.19. So the series has lost well over half of its audience. They're clearly, I think that is the reason. You have to look at sales for why they're shying away from their old formula of this is kind of how we're going to do things. We're going to, keep the shit afloat. Keep the ship afloat. Continue with the multiplayer and everything like that. So they're we're gonna have to try to hop on some industry trends. And I would be curious if a lot of people came out and said the Battle Royale mode is Call of Duty but Battle Royale, and Call of Duty is arguably the most familiar shooter that I am, so that would probably translate to my abilities the most. I would be relatively interested. It's not free to play, so it's not going to take off, but I'd be curious at the very least.
Yeah. And we all know that sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just, to echo your Fortnite point, Fortnite wouldn't nearly be as popular as it is now if it weren't free to play. But I guess, that's just kind of the sentiment I have right now, too. They're obviously on a decline. They need to shake things up a little bit, and I guess Battle Royale is a good way to do that. I'm almost certainly not going to pick up this game, but I guess good luck to them, unless they put game-breaking loot boxes in it, in which case, fuck them. But, that's just me.
Come on, this is Activision. We all know game-breaking loot boxes are the next trailer.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I guess on that dreary note, a little bit of quickie news before we dig into the Battlefield 5 goodness. Battlefield V? Whatever. PlayStation 5, not coming out.
Roman numerals.
PlayStation 5 is not coming out for another 3 years at least. And I imagine this is directly in response to the really kind of fake-seeming news that came out 3 weeks, a month ago. That's like, developers are already working on PlayStation 5 consoles and whatever. That proved to be demonstrably false.
I feel like every couple of years we get these sort of news stories where you'll get rumors that are leaked on, Reddit, 4chan, what have you, about certain developers getting hardware for the next PlayStation. And sometimes they do it, like these rumors come out for Xbox consoles, but it's usually PlayStation. And the features that they have on them are so ridiculous that I don't know how anyone believes them. I remember back when I had a PlayStation 3, one of the rumors that came out, like, oh, PlayStation 4 launching next year, and this was like 3.5 years before the PlayStation 4 actually launched. They were saying that it was going to be all clear, it's going to be the size of like a DVD case, and that it was going to be using like fiber optic bullshit. Like, it didn't make any sort of sense, and people believed it. I think that these fake console rumors come out all the time just because people want to like think about what's the next, like the future of gaming is going to be. But I really don't know how anyone actually believes it.
For me, it's interesting as a PC gamer to consider that I am 100% not going to get a gaming console in this generation. It's going to be my first generation skipped in 3 generations. I don't know how console generations work, if I'm being honest. So I was like, wow, PS5 is 3 years away. That seems like a really quick turnaround. And then I looked and I'm like, oh my god, PS4s came out 5 years ago at this point. Like,
yeah.
It was just kind of crazy to me because I still have my PS3. It still works fine. I still play games on it. It was just kind of weird to think like, oh my god, I'm gonna make it through like this whole generation without ever like even coming close really to owning one of these consoles. So that was the only real news for me from this announcement. I'm curious to see, kind of what the definitive game of this generation is going to be, because it feels like past generations of consoles have always had that game that defined them and kind of blew them up. And I've been waiting for that for a really long time in the PS4, Xbox One generation. And I really would not say that there's been one, if I'm being honest.
I feel like we all have played games that have defined what that console means for us. But I think that I would agree with you. I don't know what the game of this generation is, this console generation. Do you have any opinions on it, Lucas?
Andrew, Ryan, let me tell you about a little game called Bloodborne. That's the best God. PlayStation 2 game ever made.
PlayStation 2?
It feels like a PlayStation. It feels and looks like a PlayStation 2 game.
Oh, I get you.
And it is really good. It's one of those games where you either play it for 3 weeks straight in all of your free time, or like 2 hours every week for a year and a half. I'm definitely doing the latter, and it's good. I know a lot of people are kind of saying that and God of War are kind of the PlayStation 4 defining games right now. I'd pile on maybe 1 or 2 more with Metal Gear Solid 5, although I think that might have come out on Xbox. Persona 5, and one game is escaping me, but those are definitely up there for me. And we still have Last of Us 2 coming. We still have probably a lot of ringers that are going to be announced at E3, so I'm not too worried. I think the PlayStation 4 has a lot of mileage left in it, and especially considering this generation did the weird like half lifespan upgrade with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. Hate that name. These consoles have another probably 4 or 5 years left in them.
Yeah, I have literally no idea what the hardware situation is with those consoles, but to me, yeah, that was a really strange development that I know also happened in the 360 PS3 generation. but it didn't feel as like stark. Like they definitely didn't market it as this is an all new, expensive, crazy, the most powerful console ever made. Like they just kind of marketed it as like, here's a better Xbox. If you don't have one, you can get a better one. Who cares? Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that was effective, but it feels like it really made this generation strange as far as consoles go.
Yeah, a lot of that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, like, it definitely makes sense from like a business standpoint, but as a gamer, I was like, why would I do that? And I know that they say that, Xbox One X and PS4 Pro graphics, are better than their predecessors, but they never really did a good job at convincing me or anyone that I've ever met that was something that they would want to buy.
Yeah, like for me, it didn't feel like those types of purchases were for upgrades. Like you already have a PS4 and you want to get a better one. It was more like, oh, I'm about to buy a PS4 for the first time. Do I want the shitty one or do I want the more expensive, better one? So I think in my mind, they were always trying to appeal to the people that didn't have one and thought like, oh, PCs are more powerful. For like an extra $400, I could just get a better PC. Then they were like, oh, we'll just make a more powerful console and try to sucker them into buying. I don't know.
It definitely did feel like a cash grab move for me.
Yeah.
Back to your question about, games that defined that console generation. I would say, if I had to think back to the PS3, Xbox, was it Xbox 360 at the same time as the PS3, right?
Yes.
Sorry. But if you think about specifically the PS3, some of the games that defined those generations came in the very late stages of that console's lifespan. So for the PS3 and for the Xbox 2, for some of these games, you had The Last of Us, you had Grand Theft Auto 5. I think there was a Gears of War in there. There was a Halo something or other. I'm not an Xbox guy. I'm sorry. But those games came very late in their life cycle. And so we have, like Lucas said, 3 years until the PS5 comes out. And I'm guessing that the new Xbox will come out somewhere within a year of that. So I think that the games that are going to define this current generation of consoles have yet to come, and that'll be something that we think back on. And so I'm very excited for games that are coming out in the near future. Red Dead Redemption 2, The Last of Us 2, Death Stranding. Those are all games that are going to come out late in this console's life cycle. And I think that when we think back to the current consoles that we have right now, we're going to think of those games.
But are you excited for Battlefield 5 and that recently released trailer?
We had, shocker, newsflash, guys, we have a planning document that we're looking at. So I already know how, spoiler alert, some of you feel. But I am very, very excited.
Okay, I'm a little more tepid. Andrew, do you want to trade off the pros and cons? I'll read a con, then you read a pro that we have written in the planning document.
Sure, I will be full bull and you can be full bear.
Okay. Con.
Pro.
The trailer.
Okay.
Okay. We're going in order. Con. The trailer is, for some inexplicable reason, not set to a Jack White song.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And my comment underneath that was honestly not that exciting to me. It made me want to watch Battlefield 1 trailer, and I literally did. Like, I watched Battlefield 5. I read it on our planning document that it's not set to a White Stripes song, and I'm like, oh my god, Battlefield 1 was so awesome. So I went back, watched that trailer, said, fuck yeah, and then never watched Battlefield 5 trailer again.
God, I've watched the Battlefield 5 trailer probably half a dozen times at this point. Yeah, it got me very excited. Pro, there's a woman on the box art. I did not write that. Lucas wrote that.
Con.
I do think...
Con, for an extra $10, you can have her not on the box art.
Is that a real thing?
No, the special edition of the game, or whatever they always do game releases in like
Right,
here's the
right, right.
basic edition, here's the special edition. The one tier up edition that costs $10 more, there's just a guy on the cover instead of the girl.
Oh my gosh. Are there any extra features to that, like pre-release specials or something? Or is it
You know,
just the cover is different?
there probably are, but a part of me wants this to be the Battlefield people cashing in on people's sexism. Like, hey, if you want to be a sexist and are genuinely upset about a woman being on the cover of your video games, you're going to have to pay $10 more.
Yeah, God.
So I mean, like, here I am, not defending these people. I'm obviously like paying $10 more to not have a woman on the cover of your game is pretty bullshit. Like that's pretty transparent. But I mean, we're talking from a marketing and business standpoint here. You know, we're not talking from a politician standpoint. And Battlefield's audience is so predominantly male. Almost every single shooter is. Like, I just feel like, yeah, that wasn't necessarily the smartest move from a business standpoint to put a woman on the cover. You know, like, if some 13-year-old is with his mom shopping for video games, is he going to get fucking Call of Duty stupid game with some jack dude on it? Or is he going to get the one with a woman? Like, I'm just thinking simple marketing plans and strategy, which is what these companies are all about. They may say that, like, you know, we're trying to listen to the pulse of the people. So I'm curious what their move is behind that. If it was just reacting to the critics from there being no women at all in Battlefield 1, which apparently they then added in DLC, but still,
Yeah.
If it was just further reaction to that, or what their motivation is, because from a business standpoint, I don't necessarily think it was a good move.
I think if I had to guess at what they were doing, it is your second idea, that they are responding to criticisms of video game developers for underrepresentation of women. And, you know, those of you out there who don't know me, I'm a big proponent of getting more women and minority faces on video games, just because video games are supposed to be for everyone. And if people aren't seeing that they're being represented in video games, they're going to be less likely to play them. And so I think, yeah, we should get more women in video games, maybe get some more women into playing those video games. But as much as I would like to believe that the Battlefield developers are trying to better the world and create less of a divide in this media, I think it's probably just responding to criticism, not wanting to face those same criticisms again, maybe getting some good press. I think that's going to outweigh maybe their lost purchases from people not wanting to buy something with a woman on the cover. And so that's where I think it makes sense from a business and marketing standpoint. But yeah, that's just something I'm happy about, that there's more diversity in games.
The optimist in me wants to say that maybe Battlefield, looking at their demographic numbers, it actually is a more diverse player base than what people, or at least we think.
Which would be great.
And I hope that's the case. But then the cynic in me is also, maybe this is a Black Ops I situation where sales are starting to stagnate, and they're thinking, hey, maybe a woman on the box art, we maybe hit better with that demographic that we have in years past.
It seems a bit like a correlation causation argument of,
Yeah.
do you think that because there's a lack of representation, these people aren't playing the games, or do you think that there is just a less affinity amongst that demographic to play those types of video games? Because as it stands right now, this is, you know, not necessarily perfectly accurate statistics. It's from the Quantic Foundry. They have women as 7% of the first-person shooter demographic. So I just... to me, that makes literally no sense then. Like, if it's that low. I imagined it more like 20, 25%. If it is literally around 7% of your audience, I can't see a justification other than maybe they really do think that the lack of representation is the reason that these people are not attracted to the game, and they're just giving it a shot. Maybe.
Yeah, power to them then.
But that is really low, like lower than I had thought, and I thought low.
Let's bounce to a new pro though. Our last con was
Subtle.
sexism in video games. Um,
Gamergate.
yeah. Um,
Oh
I
God, no. We're not ready for that.
From the trailer and from articles that I've read about inside interviews that they've done with developers, it seems like this game is going to be very innovative from the past Battlefield games. And unlike Call of Duty, where every year they say, this time it's different, we promise, and it never is, I think Battlefield's done a very good job of, at least in small ways, changing the way that the game plays. And so in this one, it seems like they're really trying to effort team play and squad play, which really excites me. Um, a lot of the cosmetic unlocks that you're going to be able to do, and oh yeah, so there's going to be a lot of character customization cosmetically, which is just going to be a fun thing. Most of that progression is unlocked by doing things with your squad, getting squad points, and I think a lot of other ability progression and their leveling system is based on doing things with your squad or doing things with your team instead of just being a lone wolf and killing people. Because that's fun, but the way that you're going to progress is by doing the game the way that it's designed to be played as like a team game. So I think that's going to be fun, force people to cooperate a little bit better. Seems like they're really going to try to make people die more, which is going to, like, I know it sounds weird, but I think it's going to change the way the game is played because health does not regen. If you're revived, you're not revived with full health unless you're revived by a medic. Oh yeah, that's a new thing. Anyone can revive their teammates. It just takes longer. Health does not regen unless you're healed. You don't start out with very much ammo, and the ammo that you get from a support character is much less than what it was in the past. So it seems like dying and respawning is going to be a bigger part of the game. Radios are a thing. I guess that was a thing in previous Battlefield games. You can listen to music.
Radios are a thing.
Yeah, you can listen to music while you're driving around your tank. So that's going to be fun. You're going to be able to build foxholes and repair buildings. So that'll be cool. Crazy melee weapons are going to be back. In the trailer, we saw a dude with a katana and a girl with a cricket bat wrapped in barbed wire. So that's going to be fun. So yeah, I think that there's just going to be a lot of new things in the game, a lot of new ways to move your character as well. Really good graphics. That trailer was in engine. I know we talked about how it wasn't gameplay. It wasn't. It was all in engine, and I think some of the stuff at the end was actual gameplay, with some added, like, maybe facial features. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I'm super stoked. Lucas is mildly stoked. Ryan, please tell us why you're not stoked.
I don't know. It seems a lot more of the same old thing to me. And as a fan, casual fan of Battlefield, someone who plays it very occasionally, I kind of got into Battlefield 1 when I could play with like someone that I knew. It doesn't seem different to me. World War II almost seems like a response to Call of Duty World War II, which we just saw flopped miserably. So I can't see it being like a hit and bringing Battlefield like back to the top of the gaming world. So I just don't see a reason to be excited, in particular in comparison with past entries to the series. Just more of the same old thing for me as someone who's not a hardcore fan of the series, which is fine. Hardcore fans probably will love it, just like the new Call of Duty entry.
Yeah, and that's fair. I don't know if Battlefield 1 is what sold poorly, and like I think I remember reading that Battlefield 1 sold extremely well, and it did well enough and it maintained its player base well enough that they decided not to do another Battlefield game that next year. They took a year in between, where their cycle was for a long time, just like Call of Duty, one game every year, and they put enough effort into maintaining the lifespan of this game that it lasted an entire another year. And I am a huge fan of Battlefield 1, and I've always been a Battlefield guy. But I think that this one definitely felt a little smoother, and it felt, at least for me, like a better experience, but, it's not for everyone.
I don't know. I want to see more, and if the other trailers look as fun and I guess different from kind of the typical stuff in the genre that other Battlefield games, other FPSs kind of adhere to, then I don't know. Maybe I'll pick it up. I'm trying to keep an open mind, unlike a lot of the people upset about the trailer. But moving on. Nope, not moving on that far. TV news. NFL announces a policy that will penalize any players or teams that have players kneeling during the national anthem. Ryan, you're probably the biggest NFL guy at the podcast. Do you want to give a quickie, like, what's going on with this?
Yeah, so basically the NFL came under a lot of heat last year because a lot more players stepped up to the plate to protest police brutality with kneeling on the sidelines during the national anthem. Obviously, there were all sorts of different interests. The president was tweeting about it, different players. There was race involved, as there will be with any pro sports competition, and like a lot of unstated but pretty obvious racial overtones to the entire event. And the NFL's demographic is obviously one that would not necessarily approve of something like that. Let's just say it's a if you're looking at white rural people, if you're looking at just from a demographic standpoint, they definitely lost a lot of viewers, and some of it I think is definitely attributed to the concerns with concussions and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But I've learned, especially down south, they have taken a gargantuan hit from the kneeling. So without a doubt, this is in response to that. Try to win back some viewers. No player can kneel on the sidelines during the national anthem. And what was billed as a compromise, Roger Goodell has stated that players no longer have to be on the field for the national anthem. They can be in the locker room and they can kneel there or whatever. They probably won't, because the whole point of kneeling was to get their image out on television, to bring awareness to the issue that they were protesting in the first place. So it totally defeats the purpose. The interesting part for me is that the national anthem wasn't really around until post 9/11, kind of. Things took a bit of a turn. The national anthem was never a televised event. It wasn't even really televised as well until the later 2000s, like I think it was 2008 when companies, quote unquote, the National Guard and I believe the U.S. Army started advertising in stadiums and even in commercials. So they were paying the NFL money, and I believe someone had said that that might have been involved in the deal, was that they would start televising the national anthem. So in reality, this was not ever a really important thing in the NFL's broadcast of the games. I'm not going to say that it's not important culturally and not a thing that's been involved in sports for forever.
I think that this issue has proven that it's an important cultural issue. Like it's extremely
relevant culturally.
Exactly.
But it felt like, as far as the telecast of the game went, it was never considered that important to the telecast. I did see someone had a really funny response on the subreddit at our NFL post, which was something to the tune of they must close off all the bathrooms and they can't sell anything during the national anthem, like at the concession stands. Like, how is that not disrespectful to the national anthem? Like, imagine someone shitting while the Rockets' red glare is going on. Like, I don't understand that. So, I mean, there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek. There's a lot of back and forth. I know that it's incredibly charged. I see where the NFL is coming from a business standpoint. It's almost a decision that has to be made. It's just really sad, that it was needed to be made. Because when you look at it from the perspective of a multi-billion-dollar corporation that could stand to lose literally everything, it's really hard to criticize them as a business entity. But as a country, it makes me really
Yeah.
sad.
I'm gonna go with you on this one, because their demographic definitely showed their opinion on the issue, and there were so many people that were against it that the NFL made a decision to like cater to their fan base and to the politics of the time that have kind of pressured people into believing certain things. But as a socially minded man, seeing the issue of people protesting racial injustice and police brutality and having it turn into a thing like, oh, you hate the military, without there really being an in-between to those two instances, it's very confusing, and it really hurts as an American. But that we're not going to talk about which side is right or wrong too much, because we don't want to get too controversial.
This is just the first episode.
Yeah.
Family friendly.
Today you're going to get the Diet V2 podcast. Next week, though, you're getting that
Timmy,
full
avert your eyes.
full Dr. Pepper flavor.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess just to bookend this, and I think maybe surmise the sentiments from the podcast. This is it's kind of understandable the NFL had to do something. This is a pretty horseshit reaction for a lot of reasons, and I think, I guess I hope if players are not able to ignore the policy and kneel anyway, which would be a pretty tall ask of them, I hope that NFL-wide or the Players Union organizes something where this is just all the teams are staying in the locker rooms during the national anthem and just refusing to be what is kind of a prop in what's become kind of an agenda. And yeah, I guess that's just the way.
That's a point that I might have missed. Sorry, that's a point that I might have missed in my summary, is that the players themselves will not be penalized from kneeling. It goes straight to the teams.
Okay.
The teams are the ones that will be fined. The owners will be the ones that take the hits. The owners are the ones that voted on this in order to keep other owners in line. So basically, if a player were to protest, they wouldn't really be sacrificing like, oh, I'm just giving up a part of my game check or something. They would be risking their job and their livelihood in order to do this protest. Because if an owner takes exception to this, that obviously wouldn't be good for the player, as we're seeing with people like Colin Kaepernick, and even way back in the day, Chris Kluwe, when he was protesting all sorts of gay rights and everything like that. So
are we sure about that though? Because I heard it was going to be both, and that both players and team owners are going to be penalized if one of their players kneeled. And one piece of possible evidence for that I have is that the owner of the New York Jets told his players that if they kneeled, he would pay their fines. And so I was led to believe that the players would be penalized alongside the team financially, but maybe I'm wrong.
So the problem is with the Jets owner saying that, is this was approved in a unanimous vote. So that means the Jets owner 100% voted for this. So in my opinion, that is nothing but virtue signaling from him. The same thing with Jerry Jones when he was kneeling last year, and then he went on to completely crusade against kneeling. So
I agree on that it doesn't make a lot of sense, and that he's just trying to play both sides there possibly. But that's what I mean. Like, I still think that the players were going to be penalized if they kneeled. I know they didn't have any say in it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Regardless, if the team is the one that's going to be penalized as well, at the very least, then that is putting the player at risk at facing the wrath of the ownership of the NFL, which, as we know, is never a good thing.
No, it's not exactly a democratic process, but
yeah.
That is an important clarification, though, and thanks for bringing that up, Ryan. In more positive news, though, the Obamas are getting a Netflix series, and
we know absolutely nothing about it.
It's my understanding they were given a check from Netflix for an undisclosed amount, but I'm just going to assume it was a blank check for them to do anything. And
So here's my. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Here's my opportunity to step in as a TV person.
TV,
They were
man.
given they were given what is called an overall deal, which is when a writer or television creator is given a sum of money, so that for a set period of time, anything and everything that they create must be run by their studio in order to then get made. So at the very least, the studio can then pass on it or take it and start developing it. So if the Obamas say, hey, I have an idea where we travel around the country and interview Americans, Netflix studio can say, no, we're not really interested in that. And then the Obamas could go on to shop it at a different place. But if Netflix is into that, then they can start developing it immediately.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
basically, it's almost like a retainer fee of like, hey, we really enjoy this creator. Why don't we get the first crack at everything that they want to make? That's what they did with Shonda Rhimes. It's what they did with Ryan Murphy recently. Netflix is basically buying up a ton of very high-powered television creators to ensure their future on top of the media landscape.
Okay.
I think that's a really smart business choice.
Yeah.
I know nothing about television ethics, so I have no idea how okay that is, but I mean, like, it sounds like a very smart move. And I mean, like, I respect that, where if they say, hey, you're someone that we can really see making some high quality stuff in the future, let us know. Here's some money so that if you decide to do something, we'll take it from you. So, especially if it's the Obamas, like, we have absolutely no idea what they are planning to work on. But, it's Michelle and Barack Obama working together to do something on Netflix. We're probably going to watch it. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited.
Okay, super quickie thing, since, yeah, there's so little information about it. But, Ryan, again, thanks for that explanation. You're wonderful. What is one thing you want to happen over the course of this Netflix series? Like, what is one thing that you just want from this?
I absolutely.
Go ahead.
I want a shot of Barack Obama reuniting with Joe Biden. Some sort of long distance in between them, their eyes lock, and then they sprint full bore at each other and give themselves the meme-worthy hug that the internet thinks they deserve.
It's going to get a little fanficky up in there.
Absolutely.
In your version, I imagine.
Absolutely.
I want to see Barack Obama water skiing with Richard Branson. Oh wait, that already happened.
I don't know if I understood that joke.
It was pretty. It was like a couple months after he left office, and like Richard Branson posted a video of like Barack Obama just like water skiing with him, like out on his boat. And it was like a 2-minute video of Richard Branson and Barack Obama just like water skiing all around.
Okay.
So look that up if you haven't seen it. It's really weird and kind of surreal, but it happened.
Middle ground between the two of you. I want a single scene where Barack Obama and Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, hug, because I'm pretty sure that would just destroy me. That would be too much for my soul to take, and I would be overwhelmed with happiness and awe at the sight of that.
Who's getting fanficky now?
In less than great TV news, that an interview that was supposed to promote season 5 of Arrested Development kinda made the rounds because it came out that Jeffrey Tambor has kind of just been horrible on set to Jessica Walter, and yeah, that's really kind of shitty. There were already some less than great circumstances surrounding him after being, I don't know if it was fired or if his contract just ended and they didn't renew it from Transparent. But there were some weird circumstances with that as well. But yeah, looking like Jeffrey Tambor maybe not the best person.
Yeah, I don't, it's obviously probably more complicated than, what we understand, just because these things often are, and we don't know the gritty, probably horrible details. But yeah, I don't know how many of us are going to disagree that, Jeffrey Tambor, probably bad person. Uh, lots
Yeah,
of
just
lots of allegations
sorry.
in the past couple of months about some pretty shitty stuff that he did. Uh, Jessica Walter is an actress that I really enjoy watching and especially listening to on Archer, and I feel awful that she probably went through a lot of this stuff.
and just to clarify, not that it makes it like 100% better, but it was not sexual in nature. Any of
Right.
his
Right,
harassment of
right.
Jessica Walter on the set, it reminds me a lot of like kind of 1950s Hollywood, of just
Yeah.
like people screaming at each other and egos clashing. Like, I'm not saying that it sounds like Jessica Walter had an absolutely terrible experience, and I'm not saying that anything was, you know, anything. Honestly, I'm just trying to clarify that, man, this situation was something weird. And then the whole thing, I don't know if you guys saw the blowback that Jason Bateman
Yep.
and Tony Hale received as people that were kind of trying to
Minimize it?
diffuse a very awkward. Well, the thing is that Jeffrey Tambor was on stage,
Yeah.
and they were talking about their upcoming season of this television show. And as I'm sure it was Jason Bateman's job as an executive producer to promote this show, and all of a sudden, like, it was taken over by these horrific revelations. So I'm sure his head was in a very weird space at that exact moment. Not to excuse what he did, they both
Yeah.
issued apologies that seemed pretty heartfelt, at least to me.
What
Obviously,
happened
like,
there
managed.
exactly?
Basically, Jessica Walter was in tears on
Yeah.
stage, talking about her experience with Jeffrey Tambor, saying, like, I just need to forgive him. I need to find a way to get past it. It sounded like an absolute heart-wrenching scene. But then Jason Bateman kind of went like, yeah, that's kind of sometimes how it is in like he seemed like he was trying to hedge it. Tony
Yeah.
Hale, I think, might have chimed in a little bit. And then they both issued apologies the next day because, that was insane. But
Okay.
yeah, just trying to give light to it. He serves as an EP. This is a brand new season to a pretty beloved TV series that they're trying to promote, and it was kind of taken over by this crazy scene. So it sounded like a very, very minefieldy moment for that cast.
Yeah. And I guess I've seen some people online saying that they're not going to watch the next season because of this information. I can't really blame them for that. I think I am, just because there are people involved on that show who I enjoy, and I want them to do well in their careers, who just would have had no say in that situation. But yeah, really crummy, not good thing. If Jeffrey Tambor hasn't already, I think he owes Jessica Walters a very public and profuse apology. And I guess, yeah, I can't blame anyone who doesn't want to check out the next season with this information being known now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as always. If
Yeah.
this affects you to the point that you don't want to watch this show, then you should feel absolutely no shame about that, and you should not watch it. But if you still want to watch this show, like it's one of your favorites, and you just want to laugh with the characters that you love, you should feel 100% within your right to do so. Shitty things happen literally all the time. It's horrific. It needs to come to light. At the same time, I think either way, you should not feel ashamed about what you want to do with the situation.
Absolutely. All right, and then one last quick little piece of news that I think maybe only I care about. Sorry guys, but I gotta get this in there.
Yeah.
Gotta weeb out a little bit. This Japanese comic that I really, really like, The Promised Neverland, I don't even think it has 100 maybe it has a little over 100 chapters by now. It's getting an anime, and that's really cool. It's in a magazine called Shonen Jump, which is like the biggest Japanese comics magazine. Really different from a lot of the other stuff they put out. Kind of risky in some regards, and I just want it to be successful and for the adaptation to be good.
Nothing like risky Japanese magazines. That's always a fun topic.
Actually,
But
I applaud this comic because that there is actually very little fan service in it, and I appreciate that. You would think having main characters that are 13 years old would stop a lot of these comics from having fan servicey elements. It doesn't, and it's refreshing that this one doesn't have any of that.
Oh,
No.
well,
in the manga,
Let's-
we'll see what happens in the
let's
anime.
give them a fucking medal.
Yeah, let's wait for the hot springs scene.
Oh god, I hope they don't fuck this up.
Yeah, no, so I have absolutely no opinion on almost any manga or anime, save for a few special exceptions. So my opinions would be essentially null. So, Ryan, what you got?
Yeah, my opinions mean less than yours. I don't particularly care for the genre, so I should not be chiming in on any of this. I have cultural osmosis, gleaned a lot of information without really partaking. So there you go. Feel free to cut that.
You're totally fine. But on that note, I think it's time to move on to the group chat. All right, Andrew, I know you and I have seen Deadpool 2.
I
Ryan?
have.
Okay, so we've all seen Deadpool 2, and I guess I should say before we get into this, group chat is a segment where we, talk about the media that we've all are all like checking out, that we are watching concurrently, or that we all recently just watched. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is Deadpool 2. What'd you guys think of it?
I enjoyed it. I think my opinion of it right after I watched it was I didn't like it quite as much as Deadpool 1. I still enjoyed it and I laughed, but I didn't think it was quite as funny. It was a more somber tone. But the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. So I had a great time watching it. I think that anyone who's a fan of the series or who's just looking for a good movie to laugh at, maybe go see with some friends, I would highly recommend it.
If you don't see it for anything, are we doing spoilers or is this just a overview?
You know what? Let's do spoilers.
Yeah, we
Let's
shouldn't
get
just
into it.
we shouldn't just walk
All right.
through the entire plot line, but yeah, let's do a spoiler alert and talk about a few of the details.
Spoiler alert. All right, dig on in.
So if you don't see it for anything else, you have to see it for the parachuting scene. Just on its own.
Yes,
That
absolutely.
scene is utterly hysterical from beginning to end. It is so well thought out. It almost feels like someone had that idea and then they went, let's just jam it into a Deadpool movie as this awesome set
Yeah.
piece that is just utterly hilarious. And the whole, like, Domino is totally badass.
Yes.
Zazie
Yep.
Beetz, I love her from Atlanta. Now I love her in Deadpool. What can't she do?
Yeah.
And, then, and Vanisher.
Yeah, Brad Pitt.
Vanisher, top 10 unseen characters of all time. When his little harness is running out of the like, come on. That scene is utter glory. I was in an almost empty theater, and I was laughing to myself like a maniac during that scene.
I think that the best part about it is that it totally subverted everything that you saw in the trailer. Basically, half of the trailer was like the X-Force as an entity in the movie really isn't. It doesn't take up much screen time, but I'd say that in the trailers that were released leading up to this movie, they were at least half of the trailer. Like they were a huge part of what you thought this movie was going to be. And dear
Yeah.
God, did they just rip out everything you thought that was gonna happen.
Yeah. Terry Crews was heavily involved in the promotion
Yeah.
of this movie. He had a minute of screen
Yeah.
time.
I think
before he
two
instantly
lines.
died.
2 lines.
He had like 10,
He said who he was,
5
what
lines
he
at
could
the
do.
most.
Yeah. He said who he was,
Oh my
what
God.
he could do, and then he screamed.
And was it Peter?
Yeah, Peter.
Peter,
Peter.
Sugar Bear,
Who's alive? Peter's alive.
Canonically alive.
maybe.
Canonically alive, confirmed by the
Really?
creators that the
Oh.
post credits is canon.
Fantastic.
So the bigger one obviously is Marina Baccarin is back,
Mm-hmm.
which it seemed like killing her character was really really rough in the first few minutes of the
Yeah.
movie. I was like, oh shit, I really liked her.
Yeah, no, that
So-
hurt physically.
So I'm fine with the changes. And
Mm-hmm.
did you guys hear about Baby Hitler? The scene that got cut.
No, what?
Where he
Oh.
killed baby Hitler.
Oh
yeah,
God.
that was another post credit. He kills Baby Hitler, but that got cut.
I'm gonna have to pick up the Blu-ray now just so I can watch that scene.
Yeah, no, 100% worth a watch, especially if you have something like Movie Pass, which I have. So
Mm-hmm.
see it for free, no worries.
Movie Pass, give me
It's
money.
just it's a great time. Yeah,
Uh,
this podcast is sponsored by Movie Cast. I don't know how they have any money.
Well,
there's-
they don't, and that's a
Yeah.
growing problem for them.
exactly they don't have any money. There's no way they could sponsor us, but
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe just to bookend this a little bit. Yeah, really great movie. Popular sentiment that I think I agree with. Little less consistent than the first one, but a lot funnier. I think at least. I really appreciate how this incredibly violent movie, the main takeaway is really kind of an anti-violence message. That's awesome. And then I think the only major criticism I have is that, well, I appreciated that they had a lot of prominent female characters and a lesbian couple. I wish they were given more motivation within the narrative of the film. And
Yeah.
I know Domino, it's kind of a joke that, like, oh, she'll figure out why she's there in the next movie, probably. But Negasonic and Yukio, I thought, well, I like that they were there. I thought they could have been given more of a reason to be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it didn't really make a lot of sense that they were there. Like, I really liked Negasonic Teenage Warhead in the first movie. And, you know, all of her lines in this movie were, you know, really good. And she's always great to see on screen, but she had almost no time. And it was just like, oh, by the way, she has a girlfriend who literally only says hi and bye to Deadpool. And, like, that's the only thing she does. And then she threw her electric chain whip at one point, and that was it.
well, it was like an anime joke. I mean, like
Yeah.
every time she was talking, it was some sort of anime reference, and Deadpool was doing like the anime peace sign, and
Yeah.
there was a joking reason for her to
Yeah.
be that way. It wasn't like a, you know, not tongue in cheek. Just that's what a woman's like.
Oh, no. I definitely agree that, like, it was a joke, and it was funny. I just wish that there was more of those characters. Not really a criticism of the movie, just a thing that I wanted.
Well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that'll do it for the group chat segment this week. Definitely going to be a little longer next time. But now we're going on to the breakouts. All right, so this is a section where we each kind of rant and rave a little bit about the media that we individually are checking out this week. I'm gonna save mine for a little later on, and yeah, Andrew, tell us about your experience rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, and so I think we should preface that this whole breakout section is about things that we're watching that don't really make a lot of sense. You're gonna Lucas is going to get to his in a little bit, but yeah, I'm watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, a show that aired when I was a small child, because I never finished it, and it was recommended to me by a friend of mine saying that I should really rewatch the whole show, and it has not disappointed until the last couple of episodes. um, yeah, so I'm sorry, what was that, Lucas?
How far are you in it? How far are you in it?
There is the season finale is 4 episodes. It's a 4-part episode. And those are the 4 episodes I have left. So I have not quite finished the show, but I've watched the other 60 episodes. And I gotta say, up until the 3rd season, I thought it was just stellar. Especially for, what is, for all intents and purposes, a children's cartoon. Like I said, it doesn't make a lot of sense that I'm watching it right now. But yeah, like a lot of really good animation, a lot of really good fight scenes, a lot of really good messages. And, like as an adult at this point, I can clearly see the message behind, each episode that they're trying to convey. But it's a surprisingly mature show. For one, meant for, I was probably 12 years old when I started watching it the first time. And yeah, like, I think it's been a really good, concise, sprawling narrative that's lasted 3 seasons. One criticism that I have so far at this point is that the 3rd season is probably more filler episodes than not. In the first 2 seasons, it was almost all episodes that had to do with this expanding storyline, and maybe every once in a while there'd be an episode where they would land in some town and have to help them out or do some random thing like that. And that has been most of what the 3rd season is. There's been a couple of episodes that have to do with the greater storyline, and I've really enjoyed those. I think they've been really well done. But there's just been a couple of, like, the majority of the season has been episodes that don't fit into what's happening. And it's just, it like really takes you out of the story. But that's what I've been watching. If you guys want to binge watch a show that won't take you very long, because each episode is only 20 minutes long, I'd highly recommend it. But Ryan, what are you watching at this point?
Something that I just started is season 3 of All or Nothing on Amazon Prime. As we've stated earlier, a huge fan of the NFL. Last season, or I don't know, I guess, should I explain what All or Nothing is as a series?
Sure.
I have never heard of this. Go for it.
Wow, you guys should absolutely check it out. Especially you, Lucas. This most recent season will be appealing to you. So it started out, first season was following the Arizona Cardinals. And basically what it does is it just follows an NFL team throughout the course of an entire season. It goes behind the scenes. You see the coaches interacting with the players. You see great game day footage with the players mic'd up and stuff like that. And they just follow one team a year. So first year was the Cardinals. Second year was the Los Angeles Rams, which they were bad. Yeah, they were bad 2 years ago.
Yep, they were bad.
So it wasn't a very fun season. The first one, the Cardinals were good, so that was fun. And then this one that just released, I think, a week or 2 ago, follows the Dallas Cowboys. And in a very tumultuous season in the NFL, Lucas, you, I know, owned Ezekiel Elliott in our fantasy football league, so that drama is front and center. And then kneeling, Jerry Jones. You see a lot of Jerry Jones, at least in the first episode.
Man,
so
this seems super interesting.
Yeah, really, really love the show. If you're even slightly an NFL fan, you'll get a lot out of it. You just get to see how NFL teams run. Probably start with season 3 because it's the most recent NFL season. They used to release it more in like July so that you could get fired up for the preseason. But I guess they released it early this year, which I wasn't aware of, so I'm just now getting into it. But really enjoy it. It's a really fun look. It develops like heroes and villains and a total narrative, and really, really fun.
Oh, so it is going for more like this is the narrative of the season kind of structure?
Yeah, okay. Like they find a way they do a story arc for every single character, quote unquote, which are just players and coaches and owners, and The Joneses are obviously really interesting because they're basically just a family business. Jerry Jones is the owner, and then all of his children are his top-ranking executives. So it's a really interesting look at what makes up an NFL franchise, what goes on behind the scenes of this gargantuan industry that is kind of not shrouded in secrecy, but like you don't really know what goes on the day-to-day most of the time.
Yeah, that does sound fascinating because I'm not a super huge sports guy, but I mean, there are a lot of good stories or quote unquote narratives in any major sports league, and yeah, exploring some of those with a good amount of depth or the most recent ones, that does sound like something in my lane. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and for me as a big football fan, the thing is I always assumed that I would enjoy shows like Friday Night Lights or the new CW show All American because I love football, but it just ends up being all about the drama, and then the actual football sucks, like it's just drama and then a bunch of actors trying to pretend to play football. But this is like a bunch of drama and then professional football players with like really good camera angles, commentary, and mic'd up players actually playing the football. So yeah, you get to see narrative arcs while also having excellent football to watch at the same time. So it checks every box for me.
All right, Andrew. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, you guys know that I'm a big fan of football, and watching some of the developments this year, this has been kind of a really fun season for me, just because there's been a lot of underdog teams that you wouldn't really expect to be good that did turn out to be really good, and then there's been a lot of teams, the Patriots, who had a lot of really weird sort of HBO storyline-esque developments between players and coaches that were just like really fascinating for me to pay attention to. And it, like, this year really made me realize that the NFL teams are just so incredibly complex with like the number of like big personalities that they have, and then the business decision makers versus the players versus the fans. Like, it's just, there's so much going on, and there's so much attention being paid to them that I feel like it really creates these sort of just absolutely bonkers storylines that all belong in television shows. So it kind of makes me happy that there is an actual television show that sort of shows that. And I'm really interested, and I think I'll try to check that out.
I'm glad you mentioned the Patriots. I can imagine 50 years from now, if this show is still ongoing, that is the one team that doesn't let them do a series about them.
Yeah.
Just because of how crazy some of that is and how kind of worst kept secret in the NFL a good chunk of it is.
All right, Lucas, tell us, what are you watching and why does it not make sense?
Okay, so I'm back home at my folks' place right now. We're all, Andrew and I, recent college graduates. Ryan, a couple months ahead of us. Good for you. But yeah, I'm back home, fully taking advantage of my parents' satellite TV. I had cut the cord in my apartment, didn't have any of that. So like a good 22-year-old, I'm watching Adult Swim just about every night. And I'm not sure if it's the clarity of not having any kind of cable for so long that I'm paying more attention to it. But Adult Swim, they just run syndicated Family Guy sequentially. And I caught it on the rotation where all last week they were airing the first season of Family Guy.
Jeez.
And it is just fucking weird to watch. It is so different from everything the show became, and I guess even got its success and popularity from, that it's a completely different show, honestly, and it's not helped at all by the fact that it scales up to HD just awfully. Like, Family Guy is still and always was kind of an ugly animated show. I'm not going to get on a pedestal here, but I know a lot of people who really care about animation online frequently take shots at Family Guy. But yeah, season 1, ugly on HD, but still just such a weird time capsule.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, at that point, it was pretty Simpsons influence, let's just say.
Yeah.
It was definitely a bit more of like a family animated comedy than like it's almost like a sketch animated show at this
where
point,
its
which
entire
was
thing
always
is
what-
just cutaways. Like they say a
Yeah.
weird thing and then they show that thing happening.
I mean, that was basically what Seth MacFarlane, that was like his wheelhouse, was like animated shows like that were just short sketches, you know? So the writers evolved to that, and now at this point it's almost become a mockery of itself in doing that. Not that it's not funny sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's there's not much of a show left.
No.
And I would actually argue modern Family Guy, I feel like they're at their best when they're making fun of themselves. But there are maybe a dozen cutaways in the entire first season of Family Guy.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, and Seth MacFarlane voices all but like 5 characters.
Yeah, that's
classic Seth MacFarlane.
Well, it's gotten better, but every background character or unnamed character in the first season is just Seth MacFarlane doing a voice.
Yeah. All right. Time for
I think
our.
we've exhausted the break.
Yeah.
No, you can take this. Go ahead. I believe in you.
All right, and let's move on to what I think is going to be a bit of our monthly flagship segment, mandatory viewing. Between the three of us, we're going to recommend the other commentators a piece of media, be it a book, a movie, a TV show, a video game, something that they should consume that we know that they haven't consumed in the past, that they need to give a try, and let us know at the end of next month what they thought of it. So Lucas is going to give Ryan and I something we need to watch or play or read, and then Ryan and I will do the same. So, Lucas, tell Ryan and I what we are going to watch.
And the unspoken thing is that like the audience also watches it, right?
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, the audience.
Assuming there's an audience.
Yes, you.
If you want to play at
audience.
home.
Yeah, we're going to try to make whatever we're recommending as accessible as possible. There may be some shadier, non-recommendable ways to do this, but
Which we don't recommend.
which we will not recommend these recommended features. But you, if you want to engage with this media along with us, should watch or play or read what we're going to recommend at the same time, so that at the end of the month when we talk about it, you can get the most out of it.
All right, which of you guys want to go first? Or should I go first?
You should go first.
I should go first? Okay.
You should go first.
My recommendation, what I am mandating that you two view is an animated movie from, I believe, either 2011 or 2012 called Redline.
Okay.
It's basically Mad Max meets Wacky Races.
Okay.
Just a gorgeous, crazy movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Had a really, really troubled production cycle. Whether that because of funding issues or a conflict amongst staff, I don't know. But it took 6 years to make. And when it did come out, nobody watched it because it wasn't a Studio Ghibli movie or a tie-in to other series, other pieces of media. This is a wholly original animated movie. And yeah, you guys can check out Redline on YouTube for, I think, $2. And I wholly recommend it.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Andrew, what do you got?
Okay. So I have two recommendations just because I have one that I need Lucas to consume, but Ryan and I have the same sort of opinion on it. I know that Ryan has played this video game before. Lucas has not. You, the viewer, I highly recommend playing it. At this point, it's very inexpensive to get a hold of. And so, Lucas, I want you to play The Last of Us. And you can either get it on the PS3, I've got a copy you can use, or you can get it on Amazon for the PS4, the remastered version, for very cheap. I think new, it's only $20. Used, it's even cheaper. But yeah, it's probably my favorite video game of all time. I wanted to start out the series strong with that sort of experience. I really think that you would enjoy it if you invested your time in it. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I've been meaning to play that for a while, and I guess if we didn't make this clear already, right now we're making a lot of these recommendations in good faith. Like I hope at least, we're suggesting stuff that we genuinely think the others might like and haven't checked out. But who knows? Eventually, maybe we'll start to get a little vindictive with these. But yeah, bring it on. I'm down for The Last of Us.
Awesome.
And that also means that me and Andrew have to play through it again.
Yeah.
So I'm totally fine. I remember I've actually only played through it once, but the one time I did, I think I sat down and finished it in less than a day.
Yeah.
So
And
it's not the longest commitment, and boy is it gripping.
yeah,
Bring it on.
I played through it 6 times. The first time I played it, I finished, and then immediately in the same sitting started playing through it again. It's great.
So yeah, Ryan and I are playing The Last of Us. Ryan, what do you got for Andrew and I?
So I have something a little bit different. It's not, I guess, along the same vein, but I thought that it would be very interesting, and now I'm curious if it is going to take up a lot more of a podcast than these are maybe supposed to, but basically, post upfronts in the television world, that is when every single major television network goes to New York to sell all their new programming to advertisers and making most of their money up front, hence the name. So, therefore, a little more than a week ago, basically every single broadcast network released the Cutdowns, is what they're called, of their new series, just 3 to 4 minute basically movie trailers, but they reveal a lot more because it's 3 to 4 minutes of a 22 or 44 minute series versus, like an hour and a half, 2 hour movie. So they reveal a lot of information. You kind of get a feel for like what the show is going to be in its entirety. So basically I was just going to put together a collection of links, and we can put that in the show description or something like that for all the new broadcast series, and then we could discuss which ones we like, which ones we don't, which ones we think will succeed, which ones we think won't. Full disclosure, I read all the scripts for these over the past 6 months, so I kind of know a lot more about the series than people that are going to be watching these Cutdowns, but I'm curious to hear what everyone thinks, and maybe flex a little bit of broadcast muscles that, broadcast isn't rolling over and playing dead. So...
All right.
That sounds fantastic to me.
I'm excited.
This is gonna be a trip, and I am on board for it.
Yeah, it might take a long time. It might be a little bit longer of a segment than it was supposed to be, but I was like, you know what? For mandatory viewing, I thought this would be a good thing to, get everyone's ideas for this upcoming television season, and then we could even, start fielding bets and figuring out what we think is going to succeed and fail, and what shows are going to get canceled after 2 episodes, and what shows are going to become hits. So, yeah.
All right, let's
Bring
do
it on. All right, so Andrew and Ryan watching Redline. Ryan and I, The Last of Us. And then Andrew and I, we are watching this TV trailer compilation, do we want to call it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I was just going to link every single trailer. And we call them cutdowns because...
Cutdowns.
Yeah, it's not like dramatic turn, say a line. It's like kind of trying to give you the idea of what the pilot's like. Mm-hmm. You're cutting down the 22 or 44 minutes into like 3 or 4 minutes. So...
All right. Bring it on.
Okay.
And I think that'll take us to the end of the first ever episode of the Voluntary Viewing Podcast. Thanks for bearing with us. This was 2 hours of our lives. Probably going to be less of yours, but yeah. This was awesome, and I'm almost certain there's going to be an episode 2.
All right, we will see you then.
Bye.